In this video, I'm going to teach you how to prepare yourself physically, spiritually, and emotionally so that you can enjoy your Seder. Picture this scenario. It's Seder night. Your house is spotless. Your kids are dressed to the nines. The table is set beautifully, fit for a king. And there are wonderful smells wafting from the kitchen, from the delicious foods that you've prepared. Your guests and your family are sitting around the table, waiting excitedly with anticipation for the Seder to begin. Everyone is excited and happy, except you. You're burnt out, you're exhausted, and really all you can think about is, when is this going to end? Does it sound familiar? It does to me. I've had many Seder nights like that. And what I'd like to do in this video is to help prepare you and me to be ready for the Seder night so that we can prevent that kind of a scenario from happening. So there are two ways for us to prepare for the Seder night. One is physically, and the other is spiritually and emotionally. So first I'm going to give you 4 ideas for preparing physically. The first idea has to do with your planning when you're doing your Pesach planning for Pesach preparation. I want you to have most or all of your cooking done on the day of the Seder. So if you need to kosher your kitchen a little bit earlier, it's better to do that than to kosher it later and be frenetic on the day of the Seder. The second idea that I have is for the morning of the Seder. On the morning of the Seder, you still will have things left over, I'm sure. So what I suggest you do is sit down in the morning and write a list of all the things that are left to do. Once you've done that, you can invite any family members that are around that can help you during the day to sit down with you and review the list. Have each family member choose some of the things on the list that they will be responsible for. Now, I don't want you nagging that family member throughout the day. You don't need that, and it won't create a good atmosphere. What I'd like you to do is to put this list on the fridge, and then throughout the day, just mention to the family members, oh, when you're done with the thing you said you do, just mark it off the list so I'll know it's done. That's one way to get extra help during the day of the Seder, and for you to be relaxed and know that things are going to get done. The third idea I have is about when it comes to the tasks that you choose to do on the day of the Seder. What I'd like you to do is be very aware of effectiveness on the day of the Seder, which, if you remember, is setting a fixed amount of time for every task that you're going to do. Instead of letting your tasks just carry you through the day, I would suggest that you choose how much time you're going to put into each task and make every effort to finish in that fixed amount of time. The reason we want to do this is because I want you to be able to manage your day so that you will have some time to rest. I want you to choose a fixed amount of time in which that you are resting. That's one of your tasks to do on the Seder day. This is so important because then you'll come to the Seder rested and relaxed, as opposed to frenzied, harried, exhausted, burnt out, and maybe resentful. If you don't have time to actually take a nap or an hour to rest, then I really recommend that you take 5-10 minutes to sit and breathe and think about what you're grateful for and be appreciative to yourself. Another idea for being prepared for the Seder night starts weeks ahead when you plan your Pesach preparation. And that's sitting down with your family members, with your spouse, and with your kids, and deciding what activities will be appropriate at the Pesach Seder. What activities do you want to do to keep the kids awake and excited and having fun and engaged in the Seder? There are a lot of good ideas that you can find on the internet of activities to do with the kids. One of the mistakes that I think I've made along the way is that my husband and I took all the responsibility for any activities or exciting things that are going to go on at the Seder, when in fact the kids really could be involved, and the kids can come up with really creative ideas and fun things that they can surprise you. And now I'm getting to the ideas that you can use to help you prepare spiritually and emotionally for the Seder night. First of all, you will find more meaning in the Chag if you can connect to the ideas behind the Chag. So if you like shiurim, if you like Torah lessons, I would highly recommend that from weeks before the Seder, you find lessons that you would enjoy listening to and go and learn. Take the time to do this. I know you feel like you have to be working and moving and in action all the time, but the truth is that going to these shiurim and connecting to the meaning behind the holiday often makes you more effective. It makes you move faster and with more motivation while you're doing the work. If you don't enjoy long shiurim, or you feel you don't have the time, you really cannot take the time to go to a full-length lesson, then what I would recommend is to get ideas and inspiration and motivation from the internet. On YouTube, you can find lots of short videos that just give you a zest of inspiration, and those are great to help you connect to what it is that you're trying to accomplish here and what the Chag really means to you. Another idea to prepare spiritually and emotionally is to take the time during the day to bring yourself appreciation. I know I mentioned this before, but I'd like to say a few more words about it. We come to the Seder after all of this work that we've done, and we've really worked hard on ourselves, both physically and emotionally and spiritually. And no one really knows, except Hashem and us, how much we've put into this. I think it should be part of the Pesach Seder where there is appreciation for the people or person who brought the family to this place. But since there isn't, I'd like you to add it to the Seder for yourself. And take a few minutes before the Seder, before everyone arrives, even if you have to go into your room and be alone for a few minutes, take a few breaths and thank yourself and acknowledge yourself. It may not be the same as everyone around you telling you how amazing you are, but no, I'm telling you, and when you tell yourself, it already puts you in a different place when you arrive at the Seder. Another idea to prepare spiritually and emotionally is to remember the idea that Moshe came to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." What I suggest you do is that right before the Seder, turn to Hashem and say, "Hashem, let me go." You've been in action for so long. You have been moving. You have been making things happen. And it may be hard for you to switch to being, to switch to letting that go and just being in a spiritual, emotional, appreciative, connected place. So right before you go to the Seder, ask Hashem to help you. Ask Him to help you to let it go, because it isn't so easy to switch modes. And the final idea I have is that when you're at the Seder itself is to be mindful. What I mean by that is at the Seder itself, you might start the Seder all motivated and excited, and then maybe something will happen. Maybe your body will just start to relax and you'll be really, really tired. Or maybe it will just get too overstimulating and you'll start to get like tense and stressed. Or maybe kids will start fighting, or all kinds of things can happen at the Seder. What I want you to do is to be mindful of what happens to you throughout the Seder. Because if you're mindful, that's the first step to understanding, oops, I've gone out of balance. And now I want to teach you a little something about balance. On the screen now, you'll see a picture of me practicing a yoga pose, which is a balance pose. When I learned this pose, I'm not so good at balance, not in my life and not in yoga. And I had a hard time with it. I had a hard time not falling and not moving from side to side. I thought I was doing it wrong. I went to the teacher and I said, "How can I get better at this?" And she said to me a few things. She said, balance is not about always being in balance. Balance is about recognizing when you're falling to the side and when you're going out of balance, and knowing what to do when you're falling. So in the yoga pose, what she suggested I do is get my body grounded, feel the floor underneath me, feel grounded and centered into the floor. And the second thing she told me to do was to focus on one thing and just keep my eyes on that one spot. And this is a lesson that I've taken to my life. I no longer expect myself not to go out of balance. I no longer expect myself not to get resentful, not to be sad, not to be angry or frustrated or exhausted. I no longer beat myself up when that happens. I understand that that's just me falling out of balance, which is a natural part of life. And my job is to just get myself centered and grounded. I do this through connecting to my breath. And then after that, focus on the one thing that will help me in that moment. And in my case, usually the one thing that will help me in that moment is bringing myself compassion and choosing who I will be. So if you're mindful at your Seder, you'll notice when you're starting to shift. And now you have some tools and some ideas of how to bring yourself kindly and compassionately back to center. We've reached the final step in the Pesach preparation videos. And I just want to say one last thing before we end. We started the video series talking about process and who we are in process. And on the screen now, you're going to see a picture of a painting in process. When the painter begins painting, you'll notice that it really doesn't look like very much. The lines are not clear, everything is kind of blurry. And as the painter continues painting, you'll notice that it gets clearer, the lines become much more precise, and little by little we start to see the picture emerge until it's a complete picture and we understand what it is. I once asked an artist, how do you know when the picture is complete? How do you know when you can put it out there? And she told me, it's never complete. You can always do more work on it. But at some point you decide, I'm ready to put it out there. I'm ready to let go. And you move on to the next thing. So my blessing to you is that you can do for yourself what you're asking for in B'dikat Chametz. When we do B'dikat Chametz at the end, we ask Hashem to help us get rid of all the Chametz and whatever is left behind to make it null and void. The same thing for the night of the Seder. You can ask Hashem, Hashem, I've done my work. This is my process. I see, now I understand what I was supposed to learn on the way, and I can see the beauty of the process and what I came to in the end. And I know it's not perfect. I know I'm not perfectly clean, and my house isn't perfectly clean, but I'm at a different place, and I ask you now to accept it and bless it and help me let go. So I bless you all that you have a beautiful, beautiful Chag, a beautiful Seder, and a wonderful Chol HaMoed, and that everything that you did leading up to Pesach will bear wonderful fruit for you.